Hello everybody, welcome back to the World of Wraith YouTube channel. Today I wanted to make a video for the new players getting into the game. Seems like this game is growing a lot. I'm very happy to see that. This is an amazing game. I wanted to make a video for the new players on what staples you guys should be picking up. Most of these, well actually all of these are generic staples, so it's not tied to a class, but just because a card is generic doesn't mean that specific classes don't kind of cater towards them. So we'll get into some examples, but we're going to take it back to the OG sets. Welcome to Wraith, Arcane Rising, Crucible of War. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, if you're playing Flesh and Blood and you don't own Syn Below, get one. I'm sorry, get three. This is without a doubt one of the best cards of the game. Simply getting 4 defensive value and being able to fix your hand in a lot of cases. So many heroes use this. Zen, I've seen many lists running Syn Below now. Zen can be thought of as an aggressive deck, but right now he's playing a little more mid-rangey. Traditionally, defensive decks like Rabble are playing Syn Below. I think this card is in so many lists. If you're playing Flesh and Blood, you should own 3 copies of the red. If you're playing Enigma, I think she even plays blue Syn Below sometimes, but don't worry too much about that. But as a new Flesh and Blood player, get your hands on 3 red Syn Belows. This card will forever see play unless it sees a ban to Living Legend. But I don't think that'll happen. Not anytime soon at least. But next up, we got Snatch. Another amazing card from Welcome to Wraith. This one is generic, but it sees plays in aggressive decks like Fi, Aurora. So even though it's generic, you'll see it in ninjas, you'll see it in rune blades, things that have a lot of go again. Snatch is a great 1 card hand. You can block out and then just play Snatch. It's a little 4 breakpoint and it's threatened to draw. Great card. If you're playing, aggressive decks, I would highly recommend getting 3 Snatch. Even if you're not playing aggressive decks, I would get this, have this card. It's a really good card, and I think it's going to see play forever. Next up, Scar for Scar. Shout out to, I think it was Michael Hamilton and Michael Fang? Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing your guys' names. They recently played Scar for Scar in Enigma as like a kind of like a tempo card. Scar for Scar has been seen play throughout so many different decks. Florian can play this if you're playing like Channel Mount Heroic Florian. There's been times where I've played this in Azeri against Dromai. This is such a great card. For Go Again, it's really good. I mean, there's not much more to say. I would 100% recommend you own 3 Scar for Scars as a new player. Next, we got Sigil of Sol. Gain 3 life. If you're a new player, you might be looking at this card and thinking like, what's so good about this card? We're not going to get too much into the math of Flesh and Blood in this video, but being able to play this on like turn 1 and starting off at 43 is really good. Sometimes you'll be dealing damage. I'm sorry, I should say sometimes you'll be taking damage by little pangs of 1 damage, whether that's like Kodachis or Tigers or Rune Chants. And a lot of times you can't efficiently block these 1 damage. You don't want to use a 3 block card for a 1 damage attack. But thanks to Sigil of Sol, you can gain 3 life, and it's kind of like you're blocking all those little pings. So many decks can use this, like Verdance loves this card. New, even Aurora is seeing play with Sigil of Sol. It's an instant, so that kind of fits into her game plan. 100% would recommend you own 3 Sigil of Sol red. It's a great card. Everybody that plays Flesh and Blood should own some. Next, we got the low-key legendary Snapdragon Scalers. Even though it says common, don't believe that. This is actually a low-key legendary. This has seen play throughout all of the time it's existed, I believe. Right now it's seen playing Aurora, but it's seen playing Phi. Azuri's played this against Dromai. Giving an attack action go again, it's pretty strong. A lot of times you do it on E-Strike or doing it on Snatch, so I would definitely own a pair of Snapdragon Scalers. Alright, I said a pair because it's 2 boots. You only need one. But yeah, I would highly recommend getting this. And even though it doesn't block, even though it's a one-time use, it's amazing. Just giving go again on demand. And whenever your opponent's playing against someone who has a Snapdragon Scalers, they're always kind of wondering, oh, are they going to use snaps this turn? Sometimes like you can see the best line and you're like, okay, they're definitely going to use their snaps this turn. But even that, even playing those little mind games with your opponent, just equipping these, can be kind of useful. Next, we got Pummel. Normally, this is seen in Guardians. Guardians love this card. Given your attack actions, an on-hit as a reaction can be huge. The classic CNC Pummel play when you have your tunic up. But I know this is towards new players, so let's not even worry about CNCs. Let's not even worry about tunic. Just having Pummel, it's a really good reaction. You can run one of this and attack your opponent with one, and then they'll be thinking throughout the game like, oh man, I gotta play around the other 2 Pummels. You might not even be playing 2 Pummels. It brings in a really good, kind of like a mind game. Maybe you do play 2 Pummels and they're always looking for the 3rd one. Little do they know you're only running 2. But 100% recommend owning a playset of the red ones. The blue and yellows have seen play. If you want to get them, you should. But the red one, 100%. Get 3 of them. It's such a great card. Next, Energy Potion. This is a little more niche. I wouldn't say, yeah, buy this. This is not like a Snatch or a Snapdragons. This is a little different, but, if you're on TCG Player looking for a bunch of these cards, I would add this to your cart. It's kind of, you play it against ice decks, or you play it if you need energy, like in Kano. You play E-Pot, and then on one big turn, you use all your E-Pots, and you have 6 resources. Or let's say you're playing against ice. You can end your turn with this, and then if they ever hit you with frostbites or any type of like, oh, you have to pay 2 to continue your turn, or lose go again if you don't pay 2. Energy Potion is a nice little side deck card that, maybe it's not seeing play right now, but I think it's a good stable card to own. Next up, Arcane Rising. Now, as a Flesh and Blood player, you should own all of the Null Rune equipment. Why? Because they look fresh. Tell me these don't look fresh. Look all the little rune scriptures on the equipment. But also, because Flesh and Blood, as much as it is a physical game, there are heroes that attack you on a different axis, on the arcane axis. I will say, Null Rune Robe might not be necessary. I think a lot of heroes have better chest piece that give you resources to be able to actually pay for your Arcane Barrier. But I think it's a good idea to own all 4 of them, have the set. A lot of classes have their own specific Arcane Barrier equipment, but a lot of the times they don't. Like Guardians, they don't have Arcane Barrier equipment, so a lot of Guardians run Null Rune boots. Even classes that do have Arcane Barrier equipment, like Brutes, they have a Arcane Barrier 2 headpiece, but they'll also commonly run Null Rune gloves so they can rock that AB3. So these are great staples, 100% I would own. At the bare minimum, the gloves, boots, and hood. Robe, it's probably worth a penny, so just add it onto your cart, or ask your locals, ask your buddies, they should have some extra of these. But you 100% need a full dripped out equipment Null Rune, so go ahead and get those. Now, Fate for Scene. This is Syn Below's younger cousin. A lot of decks run this. If you're running Syn Below and you want more Syn Belows, you simply run Fate for Scene. Kano runs this in pitch stack Kano, but I don't know if he's been doing that, or if that's even a good way to play him. Enigma, very defensive decks. 0 for 4. Can't go wrong with this. Next up, Ravenous Rabble. This is mostly seen play in red line decks like Phi, Aurora, 0 for 4 go again. You know, we talked about Scar for Scar being so good. Ravenous Rabble is right there with Scar for Scar. It has a little different requirement. You know, this is played in decks where you reveal the top card, and most of the time it's going to be a red. Yeah, I mean, can't get better than 4 go again. A theme that you kind of will see with these staples, they give you 4 value a lot of the times because most cards, or most good cards, block for 3. A lot of the times that's what you're going to get out of these cards. You're going to either block 3, a lot of cards are 3 go again. But once you start doing 4, you start hitting that break point. That's important. Next up, you got Crucible of War. The only card I really have is Reinforce the Line. This is a little different from Syn Below and Fate Foreseen. Gives a defending attack action plus 4, block. This is, I used to play this on Fi. I don't think this is like a 100% you must own this. I do think it's nice to have in your collection. This plays around things like Dominate. Even though a Syn Below and a Fate Foreseen in the arsenal plays around Dominate, if you don't have it in the arsenal, it's just in your hand. Maybe you'll just block 4 and that's the only thing you can do. Thanks to Reinforce the Line, you can block 3 with your attack action. Play this as an instant, block 7. So it's a nice little addition to like the defensive collection of cards you can have. And I put Fi here because normally he plays this into Brutes, Guardians. Well, not so much Brutes, I should say, more like Guardians. It's a good card to own. I wouldn't prioritize it, but a lot of these cards should be relatively cheap. So if you're getting them on TCG Player, or if you're asking your buddies or locals for these stable cards, I would throw this in as well. Next up, you got Uprising. Fyendal's Fighting Spirit. Commonly, this has been seen playing Wizards. Funny enough, Wizards do arcane damage, but they love this card. This is simply 2 card 8. And that's pretty good. We talk about how 4 on 1 card is really good. 2 cards for 8 is also really good. A lot of times Wizards have less health, so throwing this out, y'all usually always get the gain 1 life. Ocilio, even though Icelander is banned, Icelander, this was one of her signature cards, I would say, in a weird fashion. But I would definitely own Fyendal's Fighting Spirit. Even when you're fighting against illusionists, blocking with this to destroy their illusionist attacks and then you gain a life, it's pretty good value. Next up, Oasis Respite. This is kind of like Syn Below and Fate Foreseen, where you prevent 4 damage, and if you have less life you gain 1, but it costs 1. So a lot of the times, you know, if you're playing Enigma, you can have 1 floating resource when you cast the Illusionist Aura, or even if you have like, you know, I'm talking about Tunic again. Hopefully some of you guys do have your Tunic. I know if you're a new player it's tough, but using your Tunic counter for this, it's a lot of value. You can get 5 out of this 1 card, so I would definitely recommend having your Oasis Respite. Next up, Erase Face. Most of the cards I've talked about have been relatively cheap, maybe $2-3 or maybe a couple pennies. This is one of the cards that's starting to, you know, get up there. But Erase Face is really getting into a lot of things. It's getting into Mechanologist, it's getting into Dragonic, it's getting into these elemental heroes. So I would say as a generic card, if you want to put a little bit of money in the game, you like this game, maybe you don't want to drop 100 on CNC, I think Erase Face is actually really good. I would not call it a alternative to CNC because you can't really get a card as good as CNC, but this can definitely come in against a lot of heroes and does a lot of work. Next up, That All You Got. A defense reaction kind of similar to Yellow Syn Below, but if you're defending an attack with 2 or less attack, when the combat chain closes, draw a card. This is a really good staple into many decks. Like you can play this into Assassins when they're hitting you with those pesky daggers, Zen attacking you with their staff for 2. Overall, this is kind of like you can gain 2 life if you're blocking a 2 attack power attack, because it'll just give you back a card. So in a way, you're just gaining 2 life by playing this, or it has the versatility of being a D-react as well for 3. So, you know, even if you're not blocking something with 2 attack, you can still use it in the reaction step for 3. Now, we're going to finish off the video there. I'm going to make a part 2 coming out soon, where we'll take a look at Dynasty and the other sets. But thank you all so much for watching. If you want part 2, leave a comment down below. Press that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thank y'all for watching. Peace.